Hello, and welcome to the beginning of your journey toward deep, restful sleep. I want to extend a warm and peaceful welcome to everyone tuning in tonight. Take a moment right now to just feel the chair, the bed, or the soft place where you are resting. Breathe deeply. We are about to begin a very long, quiet story. Tell me, wherever you are in the world, what time is it for you right now? Is the moon rising? Are the stars out? Let us know in the comments where you're watching from and what moment of the day or night you are stepping into this sanctuary of calm. Before we fully surrender to the quiet rhythm of history, please help us grow this space of tranquility. Take just a moment to subscribe to the channel and gently tap the notification bell so you can join us for every new journey to peaceful sleep. Now, let the worries of your day drift away. Close your eyes and prepare to be carried into the deep stillness of time itself.
Now, gently close your eyes. Allow your body to settle into the softness of the surface beneath you. Breathe in slowly and exhale fully. As you let go of the day, we will begin a very, very long journey. A deep, soothing voyage backward through time, tracing the quiet, persistent story of human civilization from its very first flicker to the steady world we know today. Listen now to the oldest sound of human history, the sound of profound silence. It began in the vast, open quietness of a world without borders, without towers, and without walls. If you could have stood there in the deep past, you would have felt only the immense stretch of the savanna and the heavy, star-strewn blanket of the night sky. In that time, long before clocks ticked, our ancestors, the early ones, moved slowly, deliberately, their lives governed by the sun, the moon, and the subtle shift of the seasons. Their existence was a continuous, rhythmic walking, a gentle wandering in search of sustenance, a quiet dance with the wild world. The first hint of civilization wasn't a sudden invention. It was a slow, shared warmth. It was the discovery of fire. Imagine the profound quiet of a prehistoric night, broken only by the chirping of insects or the rustle of the unseen world. Then a spark, a tiny, fragile, ember-born glow that brought with it the most fundamental sense of safety. Around this first trembling flame, a small group of people would huddle. They had no names for their fear, but the fire chased it away. The gentle crackle and pop of the wood became the first human lullaby, the soft, hypnotizing sound that promised protection. The light created a small, safe circle in the overwhelming darkness, and within that circle, the earliest forms of human connection began to form. This was our first home, a cave, a shelter, the inner sanctum of a group bound by the heat of a shared hearth. This quiet bonding was the first chapter of our collective history. Centuries passed like slow, easy breaths. These early humans began to leave their marks not in writing, but in the most beautiful silent murals. Deep inside the caves, away from the harsh light of the day, they mixed ochre, charcoal, and fat to paint. Look now at the walls of the cave deep beneath the earth, you see the image of a great bison, a running stag. These were not mere pictures, they were silent prayers, dreams and memories etched into the rock. The act of painting was slow, deliberate, meditative, a true work of patience. The cave walls, cool and timeless, hold these silent stories for us now, telling us of a simple life dictated by the rhythm of the hunt and the deep sleep of the night. Life remained slow for tens of thousands of years, but the constant wandering was tiring, and the promise of the hunt was uncertain. A subtle shift in human perception, the quietest revolution of all, changed everything. Someone, perhaps a woman, observing the ground near her shelter, noticed the quiet persistence of a seed. She saw that a scattered kernel did not disappear, but returned, multiplied. This observation, this quiet moment of insight, led to the decision to stop. The age of the endless walk came to an end, replaced by the age of the furrow. We call this the Neolithic Revolution, but it was really a massive collective settling down. And where did we settle? Beside the water. The great rivers became the gentle cradles of the first true civilizations. Let your mind drift now to a place between two rivers, a land called Mesopotamia. The very word is soft, Mesopotamia. Here, the Tigris and the Euphrates flow with a slow, muddy purpose. Each year they would swell and recede, leaving behind a rich, fertile silt. It was here that people first learned to trust the land. They stopped chasing the wild grain and began to plant it, watching over the fields with a newfound patience. This dependence on the land introduced the need for organization. To manage the water, they needed canals. To manage the harvest, they needed records. And out of this quiet necessity, a great invention was born: writing. It wasn't born out of poetry or law. It was born out of accounting. Imagine a scribe in the soft light of a clay hut pressing a reed stylus into a tablet of wet, yielding clay. The little wedge-shaped marks, cuneiform, are not loud words. They are quiet, precise records. 10 bushels of barley, 5 sheep. These little clay tablets, baked hard by the desert sun, hold the silent ledger of the first cities.
And what cities they were! Uruk, Ur, Lagash. They were built of sun-dried mud brick, rising slowly, one layer upon the next. They were surrounded by massive, thick walls, which offered the deep comfort of security. The most prominent buildings were the ziggurats, stepped towers that rose toward the sky like gentle, massive staircases. These were not fast-built monuments. Their construction spanned generations, a slow, continuous offering to the gods. Stand now in the stillness of ancient Uruk. You hear the distant lowing of a herd, the soft, rhythmic grinding of grain, and the murmur of thousands of people working together in a quiet, collective endeavor. This was Sumer, the first great concentration of human endeavor. As the quiet complexity of Sumer was unfolding, an even more serene and enduring civilization was growing along the world's longest river. Let the smooth, dark flow of the Nile carry your thoughts.
Egyptian civilization was defined by the steady, predictable pulse of this single river. The annual flood was a gentle, reliable promise of life, and this reliability gave the Egyptians a profound sense of permanence. This belief in permanence is most visible in their silent, colossal structures, the pyramids. Think of the Great Pyramid of Giza. It was not built in a frenzy. It was built over decades, a slow, meticulous act of devotion to the pharaoh, the god-king who embodied the stability of the land. Imagine the enormous blocks of stone being pulled and pushed, not with violent haste, but with a deep, methodical rhythm. The work gangs were fed, housed, and organized in a massive, well-oiled machine of quiet labor. The pyramids are the ultimate symbol of a civilization seeking eternal rest. They stand today as silent, immense guardians of a 4,000-year-long dream of the afterlife.
Inside the deep, cool darkness of the tombs, the walls are covered with hieroglyphs, sacred carvings that depict scenes of endless harvest and peace. These aren't loud histories. They are calm, measured descriptions of a beautiful, eternal life. The mummy, wrapped securely, rests within, waiting in the deep silence, assured of rebirth. The entire structure of Egyptian thought was a grand, soothing meditation on eternity. Move now, quietly, far to the east, to another great river system, the Indus Valley. Here, two sister cities, Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, flourished in a most mysterious, quiet way. Unlike the Egyptians or the Mesopotamians, these people left behind no grand palaces or great monuments to warfare. Their cities were built on order and efficiency. Their streets were straight. Their homes had access to clean water, and their drainage systems were remarkably sophisticated. The mystery is their quietness. We cannot yet fully read their script. It's as if they lived in a deep, collective trance of peaceful order. They seem to have valued cleanliness and organization over conquest and ego. Walk the silent streets of Mohenjo-Daro now. You see the remains of the Great Bath, a massive, peaceful pool used for ritual washing. You hear no clang of armies, no boastful proclamations, only the whisper of an orderly, long-forgotten daily routine. Their history is the sound of a soft, rhythmic quietude, a civilization that seems to have lived in a state of profound calm before slowly, mysteriously, dissolving back into the silence from which it came. As the great river civilization stabilized, the pace of human life began to accelerate, but only slightly. The center of action shifted to the vast, undulating blue of the sea. Let us sail now, quietly, across the deep waters of the Mediterranean. Here, on a rugged peninsula and its surrounding islands, a different kind of civilization began to wake up. The Greeks. Unlike the Egyptians who sought permanence, the Greeks sought understanding. They didn't build colossal tombs. They built beautiful, balanced temples to house ideas. Imagine a calm evening in the city of Athens. The Parthenon, a temple of flawless marble, glows softly in the setting sun. Below, in the agora, a public space, citizens are gathered. They are not listening to a king's decree. They are listening to a man speaking, asking gentle yet powerful questions. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, these men didn't conquer territory. They conquered ignorance. They introduced the concept of philosophy, the slow, deliberate pursuit of wisdom. Greek democracy itself was a massive, quiet conversation. Citizens would gather to debate the laws, the nature of justice, and the purpose of life. Their greatest contribution to history was not their armies, but their willingness to question and to argue, to let ideas compete peacefully. Their plays, the tragedies and comedies, were a way to quietly explore the turbulent emotions of the human soul. They are soothing stories, even in their sadness, because they give form and name to the chaos of life. The Greek ideas, though, were meant to travel. A young, ambitious king, Alexander, took the concepts of his Greek tutor Aristotle and marched eastward. His empire was vast, connecting Greece, Egypt, Persia, and India. The result was a new era of quiet, cultural blending called the Hellenistic Age. Imagine a library in Alexandria, Egypt, where an Indian scholar, a Greek philosopher, and an Egyptian priest quietly study scrolls side by side. It was a time of immense intellectual cross-pollination, where the best ideas of the East and West merged into a single flowing stream of knowledge. The empire dissolved quickly, but the gentle, unifying power of Greek thought remained, setting the stage for the next great power. Now we turn to the quiet, hard certainty of Rome. Rome was a city built not on philosophical inquiry, but on an intense, practical dedication to order. The Romans were the master builders of stability. They cared less for abstract thought and more for concrete solutions, strong laws, efficient roads, and reliable infrastructure. Walk the ancient Roman roads now. They're built with a deep, enduring purpose, straight and true, stretching out for thousands of miles. The sound you hear is the gentle, steady rush of water carried by an aqueduct, a marvel of engineering that brought clean, cool water from the mountains into the heart of the city. The Romans understood that a vast civilization needed systems that simply worked, year after year, with quiet reliability. The core of their long success was the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. It was a period of over 2 centuries of relative calm across a vast empire, from Britain to the deserts of North Africa. During this long, quiet era, trade flourished, cities grew, and Roman law became the silent foundation for justice across the Western world. Their legions, the disciplined Roman army, were not always fighting. They were mostly standing guard, a quiet, reassuring presence that maintained the deep peace.
It was within the deep, sullen shadow of the Roman Empire that a new spiritual story began to spread. Christianity started as a small, whispered movement, a belief system that promised spiritual peace and equality far from the strict hierarchy of the state. It spread slowly, silently, moving through the trading ports and along the Roman roads, gaining followers not through force, but through quiet conviction. Eventually, this quiet faith became the state religion, a transformation that showed that even the hardest empires could be softened and changed by a persistent, quiet idea. The Roman Empire did not collapse in one loud crash. It experienced a long, slow, quiet decline. It was less like a sudden fall and more like a gentle, gradual fading. Its strength was slowly sapped by internal strain and the gradual arrival of various tribal groups who did not conquer the empire violently, but rather settled quietly within its weakened borders. This long, slow transition ushered in the Middle Ages. The great Roman cities shrank, and the grand systems of governance broke down. But knowledge was not lost. It simply retreated to a quieter place, the monasteries. Imagine the interior of a medieval stone monastery. It is cold, quiet, and filled with a deep sense of purpose. A monk sits at a scriptorium desk, his face illuminated by the soft, flickering light of a candle. His quill moves slowly, painstakingly, copying ancient Roman and Greek texts onto new parchment. Outside, the world may be chaotic, but inside these walls, knowledge is being preserved with quiet devotion. Every letter, every stroke of the pen is a slow, methodical effort to keep the flame of civilization from extinguishing. The deep silence of the monastery, broken only by the monk's soft breathing and the gentle scratching of the quill, is the sound of enduring scholarship. While Europe was going through its slow sleep, a dazzling, vibrant civilization was reaching its zenith in the east. Let your mind travel now to the vast arid landscapes and bustling cities of the Islamic Golden Age. The city of Baghdad, a jewel of the caliphate, contained the House of Wisdom. Imagine this library filled with countless scrolls and books. Here, scholars, Muslims, Christians, and Jews quietly worked together, translating, studying, and expanding upon the knowledge of the Greeks, Indians, and Chinese. They developed algebra, refined astronomy, and perfected medicine. The Islamic Empire was a gigantic bridge, connecting the knowledge of the old world and preserving it for the future. Their quiet, intellectual pursuit of knowledge kept the light of reason burning brightly while much of Europe slept. Their quiet trade routes, the Silk Road and the maritime paths, stretched across the entire known world, creating a gentle flow of goods, ideas, and peaceful exchange. At the same time, in the Far East, the mighty, enduring civilization of China continued its long, steady course. Chinese history is a story of immense stability, a giant, slow-moving river that flowed for millennia within the same deep banks. The Chinese developed an elaborate, quiet system of bureaucracy, governed not by loud, volatile kings, but by scholarly officials trained in the philosophy of Confucius. The civil service exams, slow, arduous, silent tests of knowledge, determined who would govern, ensuring a deep-rooted continuity. The Great Wall, winding like a sleeping dragon across the mountains, was the ultimate symbol of their desire for quiet self-preservation, a massive, silent boundary to keep the outside chaos away. Their culture, their calligraphy, their inventions, from porcelain to gunpowder, were all developed with a methodical, deep patience that defines true endurance.
Now, let us return to Europe, where a slow, almost imperceptible waking was beginning. This quiet awakening is called the Renaissance, or rebirth. It began in the gentle, moneyed cities of Italy, like Florence. Imagine a soft Italian dawn. The air is mild. Artists and thinkers are quietly studying the ruins of the Roman Empire. They are not trying to copy the past, but to rediscover the beauty of humanity. Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, the great artists, studied the human form with a deep, quiet reverence. They brought back the Greek idea that man was the measure of all things. It was a revolution of the eye, of the mind, and of the soul. A quiet confidence in human potential expressed through painting, sculpture, and poetry. This quiet cultural shift was amplified by an invention that changed the world with its silent speed, the printing press. Suddenly, books were no longer rare treasures guarded in monasteries. They were common, widely available objects. Knowledge could spread like a silent wind, carried on the pages of mass-produced books. This rapid dissemination of ideas led to the Reformation, a religious movement where individuals quietly began to question old authority, leading to a profound, permanent reshaping of the spiritual landscape of Europe. This new confidence, this sense of inquiry and human potential, propelled mankind into a new era of exploration. Quietly, slowly, the great sailing ships set out into the vast, unknown oceans.
Christopher Columbus, Ferdinand Magellan, Vasco da Gama, these explorers embarked on long, silent voyages, their ships carried only by the wind and the gentle swell of the sea. The voyages themselves were long stretches of quiet solitude, broken only by the creaking of wood and the vast sound of the ocean. Their discoveries led to the quiet merging of two worlds, the old world of Europe, Asia, and Africa, and the new world of the Americas. This new world was not empty. It was home to civilizations like the Maya, the Aztec, and the Inca, who had lived for centuries in quiet majesty. The Maya had mapped the stars with a deep precision that few in Europe could match. The Incas had built vast empires in the Andes Mountains, connected by a quiet, efficient road network. Their cities and temples, like those at Machu Picchu, stood in quiet, powerful defiance of time. But the arrival of the Europeans was a catastrophe, not through loud, decisive battles, but through the silent, invisible power of disease. Smallpox and other European illnesses swept through the native populations, decimating them with a devastating, quiet efficiency. It was a tragic, irreversible chapter that cleared the ground for the growth of a fundamentally new civilization. The story now leads, inexorably, to the very land where you are currently resting. The North American continent became a melting pot, colonized by the British, the French, the Spanish, and the Dutch. The long, slow colonial period was defined by the quiet struggle to carve a living out of a new and wild land. Then came the moment of profound decision. Picture a quiet summer evening in Philadelphia. A group of men, dressed in their finest clothes, sit in a room debating with a deep gravity. They are writing a document, a quiet, powerful statement that would reshape the world, the Declaration of Independence. They were asserting that they, as a people, had the right to self-governance, built on a simple yet profound principle, that all men are created equal. This was a quiet philosophical revolution, a bold new experiment in self-rule that drew from the concepts of Greek philosophy and Roman law, tempered by the quiet experience of life in a new world. The creation of the United States was a long, slow process, punctuated by both great ambition and deep flaws. The Civil War was a horrific, loud interruption of the nation's quiet growth, a bloody conflict fought over the very principle of equality enshrined in those founding documents. But the eventual outcome was a more perfect union, a nation that, though deeply scarred, emerged more unified and ready to take its place on the world stage. This new nation was the perfect setting for the next quiet revolution, the Industrial Revolution. The sound of history shifted from the soft scrape of the plow to the rhythmic clanging of the factory. Coal smoke began to fill the skies, and the world was suddenly transformed by steam engines, telegraph lines, and railroads. This was a revolution not of armies, but of quiet ingenuity. Inventors worked late into the night, their minds buzzing with ideas that would reorganize human labor and time itself. The world became faster, but the progress was built on the slow, methodical work of engineers and mechanics. The 20th century brought two devastating global conflicts, periods of immense noise and destruction. But even these horrific wars were followed by a renewed, quiet yearning for stability. The creation of the United Nations was a global attempt to institute a permanent, quiet conversation, a forum where nations could talk instead of fight. The post-war era saw the quiet rise of the modern American global influence, its economy, its culture, and its technological prowess, from the invention of the computer to the quiet, successful landing of men on the moon, became the driving force of the latter half of the century. It was a demonstration that a stable, democratic society could foster innovation and lead the world toward a collective future. The history of human civilization is not just a series of loud battles. It is a long, continuous story of people quietly trying to find a better, safer, more comfortable place to rest. From the warmth of the first fire to the quiet power grid that lights your home, every step has been a search for peace. Now, as your mind drifts and your breathing becomes slower and shallower, you are resting on the accumulated stillness of all that has come before. You are part of the long, quiet, enduring story of humanity. Feel the calm of the ancient world surrounding you. The pyramids stand guard. The rivers flow slowly. The philosophers whisper their questions. Allow yourself to drift now, further and further, down into the deep, soothing sleep that is your birthright. The entire history of human endeavor has led to this moment of quiet rest. Let the long, continuous rhythm of our story carry you into a deep, peaceful slumber. Sleep now. Sleep deeply. The world